Today we're going to be reading the book Why the Sky is Far Away, a Nigerian folk tale. Here we go. In the beginning, the sky was very close to the earth. In that time, men and women did not have to sow crops and harvest them. They didn't have to prepare soup and cook rice. The kids did not have to carry water to the stream or from the stream or gather sticks for the fire. Anyone who was hungry just reached up and took a piece of sky and ate it. It was delicious too. Sometimes the sky tasted like meat stew, sometimes like roasted corn, and sometimes like ripe pineapple. There was very little work to do, so people spent their time weaving beautiful cloth, carving handsome statues, retelling tales of adventures, and there was always festivals to prepare for. The musicians practiced, the mask makers carved their masks in secret, and everywhere the kids watched the preparations in wonder. The king of the land was called the Oba, and his court was magnificent. At the royal palace was a team of servants whose only work was to cut and shape the sky for ceremonies. But the sky was growing angry because people were wasteful. Most people took more than they could possibly eat and threw the leftovers onto garbage heaps. I'm tired of seeing myself soured and spoiled on every rubbish bin in the land, brooded the sky. So, one morning at sunrise, the sky turned very dark. Thick black clouds gathered over the Oba's palace, and a great voice boomed from out above. Oba, mighty one, your people have wasted my gifts, and I am tired of seeing myself on heaps of garbage everywhere. I warn you, do not waste my gifts any longer, or they will no longer be yours. The Oba, in terror, sent messengers carrying the sky's warnings to every corner of the land. In every village, people were told about the sky's unhappiness. The children were warned never to take a piece of sky unless they were truly hungry. People were very, very careful. That is, for a while. Then the time arrived for the great festival of the year. It was the festival that celebrated the power of the Oba. The most important palace dancers performed all through the night, and the Oba himself, in ceremonial robes, danced for his subjects. By the fifth day, there was rejoicing in every home and on every street. The Oba knew that though, with all that dancing and merriment, people might forget the sky's warnings. So he made sure no one took more sky than he or she absolutely needed. Now, there was a woman in this kingdom who was never satisfied. She could barely move when she wore all the weighty necklaces from her husband. But she craved more necklaces, even though she had a lot of necklaces. She had 11 kids of her own, but she felt her house was empty. And most of all, this woman named Adesi loved to eat. On the very last night of the celebration, Adesi and her husband were invited to the Oba's palace. There they danced and danced and danced and ate well past midnight. What an evening it was, Adesi thought later, standing in her own garden again. Oh, how I wish I could relieve tonight. The drumming I heard, the riches I saw, the food I ate. She looked up at the sky and hoping to taste again the cocoa yams, the meat stew the sky had offered. She took a huge piece to eat. She had only finished 1/3 of it when she could swallow no more. Oh no! What have I done? Wailed Odyssey. I can't throw this away. So she screamed for her husband. Oh, Tulo! She screamed, calling her husband. Please come and finish this piece of sky for me. Her husband, exhausted from dancing all night and stuffed with all the sky he had eaten at the Oba's palace, could only take 2 bites. Wake up the kids! Screamed Odyssey. Now the kids had spent all night at a masquerade party after their dinner, and most of them were still too full even to nibble at their mother's piece of sky. The neighbors were called, and the neighbors' neighbors were called, but Odyssey still held in her hand a big chunk of sky. What does it matter, she finally said to herself. What does it matter to have one more piece of sky on a rubbish heap? And just to make sure it didn't matter, she buried the leftover piece of sky in the garbage bin at the back of her house. Suddenly, the ground shook with thunder. Lightning creased across the sky above the Oba's palace, but no rain fell. Oba, mighty one, boomed a voice from above. Your people have treated me with no respect. Now, I will leave you and move far away. But what shall we eat? Cried the Oba. And how shall we live? You must now learn to plow the land and gather your crops and hunt in the forest, answered the sky. Perhaps through your own labor, you will learn not to waste the gifts of nature anymore. No one in the land slept very well that night. The rising sun uncovered the heads of men and women and children, peering over rooftops and through windows, straining to see if the sky had really left them. It truly had. It sailed upward, far out of their reach.
What if they've been rockets?
From that day onward, men and women and children had to grow their own food. They tilled the land and planted crops and harvested them. And far above them rested the sky, distant and blue, just as it does today. Thank you for listening to our story. I hope you enjoyed it. Why the Sky is Far Away.